Today we have an awesome guest on our show, Taylor VanDyk. She is a dietitian who coaches chronic dieters how to help them finally make peace with their food and fuel their bodies. She started her business in 2020 after learning from the pandemic that she really enjoyed working from home and could make a difference online. And I think she is doing an amazing job with that. So welcome, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is actually my first time being on a podcast, so super exciting.
Yay. Well, you're going to share so much information that's going to really help people not only with, their food and their bodies, but also you're a newer entrepreneur. And I'm really excited for people to hear kind of the beginning stages of entrepreneurship through your journey. So first, I want to know, have you always wanted to be a dietitian, or is this something that came about later on in life when you were trying to figure out what career path to take? Kind of take us on the journey of how you got to doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, so it feels like a long time because I will say that I have always been interested in nutrition and fitness and things like that. So going into college, I already knew that I wanted to be a dietitian. But I was kind of thinking when you sent me over the topics that we were going to talk about, kind of how personal I wanted to get. But I think, everyone has a story about why they do what they do, right? And so for me personally, the reason that I got into dietetics and nutrition was because of my own struggles with body image and nutrition and things like that. And so when I was, I guess I would say probably 14 or 15, I specifically remember a pediatrician telling me and my mom, at my doctor's appointment, that I was overweight. And I was a young, healthy, active teenager. And so a doctor telling you that, that sticks with you. And unfortunately, my experience is not unique. I talk to women every single day that have had a coach or a parent or somebody, body shame them or something that kind of set them off and put them into years of a dieting journey. And so for me, that kind of was my tipping point. And that set off, I would say, nearly 10 years of being obsessed with food and dieting and wanting to look a certain way and things like that. And so I'll be 100% honest. And when I started my going into nutrition, it was mainly to help myself, right? It was oh, I want to be the skinniest version of myself, or how can I, help get nutrition knowledge to help me be, whatever, better, healthier, those types of things. And then of course, once I got into the major, I started learning things. And when I was a freshman, I believe it was, I took a step aerobics class of all things. I took a step aerobics class. And during that time, the instructor came up to me and was like, hey, I noticed your athletic ability. Would you be interested in doing fitness or instructing some of these classes? And I was like, first of all, I was insecure. So I clung on to that, oh, she thinks I'm athletic. So I kind of clung on to that and was like, yeah, sure. So I ended up doing fitness throughout college. But for me, that was something that really changed how I felt about my body because I was able to get stronger. And then through my classes, I was learning more about nutrition, how to feel my body. And so things were starting to change for me personally. And it wasn't so much anymore how can I be, the skinniest or have disordered eating. It was more how can I be a healthier version of myself? And then I was oh, well, I could help other people do this. And so that got me excited. But then I kind of realized nutrition and fitness for a lot of people is kind of just another area where they don't feel good enough, right? For most, you and I, we have we like to exercise and things like that. And so it's not so much for us, but when you talk to a lot of people, it's just kind of another area that's oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm not good enough for that.
Yes.
And so that's when, I've obviously been working in the field for a little while, but that kind of got me to where I am, is wanting to help women on a more individual level, is kind of overcome some of those barriers and things that I have gone through in my personal journey. So long answer to your question, but that's where I am today. So.
No, I think that's important to share because like you said, we all have a story. And I think when we share our story, we help others realize that they're not alone and that, you sharing what happened to you, you obviously said that a lot of your clients have shared similar stories, and then you can help them because you've overcome that. You've worked through that. And now you can help them work through it. So I'd love to hear how you help them, with these diet culture or certain things that have happened in their life. what do you do with your one-on-one coaching? Like, could you give us kind of more of insight on how you help them overcome the chronic dieters and the self-limiting beliefs or body image issues?
Yes, absolutely. So it is quite a process, I will say that. And that's where, I mean, of course, the coaching piece comes in, is because a lot of people get on these, diets they find on the internet, a 6-week challenge, a 30-day quick fix, or things like that. And so a lot of what I do is honestly just helping them sift through a lot of the BS that they can find out there. And because a lot of people have these ideas in their head, and it's like, we just really have to kind of set the arrow straight and help them determine like what is the best plan of action for them individually. Going off of that, I do tend to focus on 4 different pillars, which I'll share, and each of those have like go in depth forever, but I won't do that. So we talk, so for every single client, these are kind of the 4 things that we generally have to work on. And I'm actually glad that you asked this, because I'm kind of revamping my process right now. I used to do like a linear process. Like we do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. But what I was finding is that everyone comes to me at different points in their journey. Like there might be people that are still like really, engulfed in diet culture and still need that support. And then there's some people that have, kind of come out and they're like just looking for a little bit more nutrition help and things like that. So I've been seeing people at different places. So I was finding that linear process wasn't working for everyone, just because I was seeing people at all different areas. So I kind of transitioned. And so now I just have like pillars that I tend to focus on. So those pillars are body attunement. So that's going to be just getting people helping people get back in touch with their personal body signals. Because a lot of times when people are dieting, they're eating according to what an app says or what a meal plan says, and not necessarily eating according to how hungry they are or how full they are, and kind of paying attention to their own body signals. The next thing we always talk about is balance and satisfaction. So although a lot of times with diet culture, people are taught that less is best, right? Like the less food that you're eating is better and things like that. And so, but that's not obviously always the case. And so what are some like balanced meals and satisfying meals? And then I just say balance as kind of an overarching thing, because like hormones need to be balanced and life needs to be balanced. And so that kind of more of an overall encompassing word. So I like that. Foundational habits. So this is going to be everything from exercise to meal planning and shopping and getting enough sleep and meditation and all sorts of things like that. So we always focus on those, because of course that's what's going to help people sustain things long term. And then we always focus on maintenance and recovery, because my goal when I work with a client is I don't want them to have to, pay someone or stick with someone forever. Like they should be able to eventually do this on their own without that support. So always making sure that they have the tools to be able to maintain what we discussed in our program and be able to maintain that long term.
Wow, those really cover everything. Myself being on a wellness journey, like personally for 8 years, that literally covers all the things that you really need to work on. And I like that you're meeting people where they're at with the pillar system and the body attunement. I think that's something that's really lacking in a lot of the space and a lot of the information out there. So that's really interesting. I think that's going to help so many people. I love that. The way you broke it down too makes sense. And I know that a lot of people, they would rather just look on Pinterest or look on Google or YouTube. But I think from my own experience and from helping other people too, that investing in someone who is a professional or someone that has the tools that can help you and that can support you one-on-one is so important and so worth it. So what would you say, in your perspective, what is your perspective on why it's so important to invest in someone like you that can really walk them through all those steps, that also has your knowledge and your expertise?
Yeah. So it is kind of a tough sell, I guess you would say, because I feel like it's not like when you're selling like a product, right? People are like, oh, like I get something tangible. When you're selling coaching, it is difficult because people are like, oh, like, is that really something I need in my life? Like I could go buy, an Apple Watch or like a new phone or, whatever it is. And that's like something I can actually hold in my hand. So I will say that can be kind of a tough thing for people to wrap their head around. It's like, why do I need this? And so I guess what I would say why they need the professional help, one is, like I said, a lot of people just need clarity, right? Like there's so much nutrition and health and wellness information.
Too much.
And sure, I'm not saying so much, and not saying all of it is wrong or there's wrong, but a lot of people can't find what's right for them, right? Like, sure, like the keto diet might work for someone, or like the clean eating, or like whatever. Sure, it works for your coworker. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the right thing for you, because you have a totally different set of hormones, a totally different lifestyle. Like that just might not be the path that works for you. So helping people to find just clarity around what's actually realistic, what's going to work for them according to them and their lifestyle. And then I would say speed of implementation, because sure, you probably could do it on your own, but it might take years or longer in order to do all of that on your own and sift through all that information. So speed of implementation, I feel like, is really helpful when you're working with a professional. And then lastly, just like accountability, because again, you could do it on your own, but that tends to be where people fall off, is like, sure, anyone can do it for a week or a month and they're doing great, but then all of a sudden they're moving, or life gets stressful, mom gets sick, like something happens. And how do we continue on with our health and wellness even in these stressful times? And that tends to be where people fall off and then can constantly have to restart. So working with someone can kind of just help keep you on track to make sure that you are getting to where you want to go, even through those bumps in the road.
Yeah, I totally agree. Accountability is everything. And that's usually the missing piece. And then the one size fits all is not true for anything with wellness, honestly, nutrition, exercise. Yeah, that's such we get these trends, these buzzwords or whatever, like keto was for a while, where like everyone wanted to do keto because everyone thought it would work for them. And it's like, no, it's not going to work for every single person. So I think that, yeah, you have the ability to really help them hone in on what's going to work for them. And also, if something they try doesn't work, you can steer them in a different direction and see if there's something else that might work better. So I definitely agree with you. I would also love for the listeners to hear more about, we said at the beginning, you started your business last year during the pandemic, and you're a newer entrepreneur. So I kind of want to hear from you, like, what was really the decision that made you, or what was the catalyst that made you decide that? And also, how is it going? Like, what are the challenges that you've been facing to start your own business?
Yes, absolutely. So this is actually funny, because I remember, like, in college, one of those times, it was like the beginning of a class, everybody had to go around and say like why they wanted to be a dietitian or whatever. And I like specifically remember saying I wanted to have a blog or be a journalist, or I don't know, like some sort of journaling where I could help people get realistic information, like on the internet. So like I literally said that 8-9 years ago now, which is crazy. And so I feel like I kind of always had that in the back of my mind. And I've always loved educating. Like I do love the individual work, of course, but like I really thrive in the setting of like making videos for people and, doing presentations and things like that. And I would love that education piece. And so I feel like this has always been something that was interesting to me. But then of course, like after college, you just kind of feel like you have to do the path that's set for you, like get the job and, do all the things. And so of course I did all those things. I still have a 9-to-5 job. But then last year during the pandemic, we had the opportunity to work from home. So this week, actually right now, is the first week I'm in the office full time again. And I'm crying a little bit about it, but it's okay.
Oh, I was going to say, there's probably such a weird transition back, and you're probably like, okay, I'm ready to go back to being at home.
Yes. Yeah. So last year we got to work from home, and then even like halfway through the pandemic, I guess we worked from home part-time. So I was still at home a couple days a week, like, working from home. And then it was just so nice. And I just loved working from home. And I really am kind of a homebody, and I live out of state. So my family is far away. And so it was just, and last year during the pandemic, I had the opportunity to go see my family more often, because I was working from home. So I could go, like stay for a week or a couple of weeks and things like that. And so I think just my priority shifted a little bit, and like wanting to have that flexibility to go see my family when I want to. And my fiance is a sports dietitian. And so he probably will move eventually for his career, just because if you want to work with athletes, you have to go where the athletes are.
Yeah.
I guess, wanted some of that freedom and flexibility that comes along with entrepreneurship. So that's kind of, I guess, what set me off into wanting to do this. It's like, if not now, when, right?
Exactly.
So kind of doing that. And then I guess some of one of the things you asked about was challenges. And I think similar to what a lot of my clients face with nutrition, of consistency and things like that, is probably some of the same things entrepreneurs face, just in a different way, right? So I would say that's been one of the bigger challenges, is of course the way that a lot of online businesses get clients is through social media and things like that. And so I think consistency on the various platforms and things, just because it's a lot. Like, you're literally putting yourself out there to be liked or disliked or commented on or whatever. And so sometimes there's weeks that you just don't want to do that. And I know you have a social media presence as well. And so there's just weeks that you're like, oh, do I want to show up and be judged? Like, I don't know if I do. And so I think that that's probably been one of the bigger things. And then of course, just like, I'm good at the dietetics part. Like, I'm good at the nutrition and the fitness and things like that. But there's a whole other side of like business that I don't learn about in school as a wellness person, So like, I didn't learn the sales piece, and I didn't learn the, like all the money management and stuff like that. So that's been a little bit of a learning curve too, is learning the more business side of things along with the wellness side. So
yeah, that's something that even, I mean, unless you got a business degree, and even some of those don't teach you as much, especially with the new way of like online presence and online businesses. Yeah, I didn't know any of that either myself. So it is a lot to manage. And I think sometimes even with social media, it's also, sometimes you don't feel inspired or you don't feel creative, but you still have to show up somehow. So it's like, yeah, that balancing act and finding the organization of being consistent and having like a schedule, creating your own schedule. But I do love that you mentioned the flexibility, because I think that's what all of our guests have said so far too, is the flexibility of, being able to decide for yourself what your schedule looks like, when you can go see your family, when you can do the things you want to do, is such a big positive to becoming an entrepreneur. Now, I know you talked about social media, and I think you're doing amazing on TikTok and also on your Instagram. You're always creating valuable videos, reels, and posts. So I would love to hear if you have any, insight or tips on how you've used social media to grow. Like, what is I guess, just give us the deets.
Yes. So I feel like this is, again, like I said, one of those things that like manifested for myself. But last year, when I was kind of thinking about goals for my coming year and deciding like, what do I want my business to look like and what do I want to do? And like, one of the things that I wrote down was making a TikTok account, like the Minute Dietitian is what I am on TikTok, and just making a video every day. I was like, I don't care if people follow it. I don't care. I just like want to do it. I've been watching TikTok the entire pandemic. Every day I was like, I should make a video, and I never did it. So I was like, just do it. Like, why are you not doing this? And like, I have something to offer the world. So like, why not? And so, starting that, I was like, well, I could use this for clients, or like, tell them that I'll have recipes on there or something. And so I kind of just started it without big intentions. And then it just kind of took off. I had a few videos that did really well. And so now I have a decent following on there. But then again, that also comes along with some of that pressure, like we talked about, like, oh, now I have to show up for these people, which is like, it's a great opportunity, but it also does kind of add that level of like, what am I going to put out there? So I think what has really helped me is when you said, you're not always feeling inspired. So like, when I am feeling inspired, I really try to take advantage of those times. And so I saw actually another TikTok person that uses like TikTok for his business to get traffic. And one of the things that he recommended that I have kind of adopted is like, choose the different days of the week. One day, choose like the topics that you want to cover, or like the videos that you want to make. The next day, like write the scripts out, or at least write the bullet points that you're going to talk about. And then choose a day where you can film them, so that's like all done at one time. So then like for the week you have 4 videos, and then on the off days you can go back and film like replies to comments and things like that. And so doing something like that, I feel like has helped me in a sense to stay a little bit more consistent. So it's not like every day, like, oh crap, it's 8 o'clock. Like, what am I going to put on TikTok or Instagram or whatever? And just having something at least like planned out a little bit in advance. Also just repurposing content. I think something that a lot of us struggle with is always trying to figure out like, oh, what can I put on here that's new? And like something that I feel like I'm still learning and trying to adapt to is like, you're always reaching different people and different audiences. So it's okay to use the same stuff. So like take your caption from your post last week and make it into a reel or a TikTok or, you know, whatever it is. And don't always feel like you're having to come up with new stuff because you don't. And people need to hear stuff like 10 to 15 times before it actually sticks. So
right.
putting that information out as much as you can.
Those are great points. I think that's something that I need to work on getting better at again, because I used to be much better about it before I had my daughter. And now I feel like I'm still trying to get back to that because filming or typing up or creating content in advance. And I think especially because so much on social media right now is videos, which could take more time. Cause it doesn't matter how you show up. Me personally, I want to have some makeup on and like, figure out an outfit. I'm not that stylish, but you know what I mean? Just something like, I don't want to look like I just rolled out of bed. So it's like, I have to like plan for that.
Yeah.
And I think I love that idea of like planning out a few days a week of what you're going to focus on. And then, or if you're really feeling creative one day, do 3 different videos or do 3 different posts so that you have them ready to go. So it's not like you said at 8 p.m. at night, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to post something. And what am I going to post? And you're scrambling. And I think you being consistent has really helped you grow because you said, I'm going to start on doing videos every day. And the more you were consistent, I'm sure the more you saw the following grow and grow. And repurposing is so important. I tell my team of coaches that all the time. Like if you posted something 3 months ago, guaranteed if you post it now, and if it was valuable, the new people are going to see it, or people are going to see it again. And they probably forgot that they saw it the first time.
Right. Yeah. Or using like, I know you probably have analytics and stuff on your Instagram, but like looking at what post performed well. And like you said, either repurposing it, either use that exact same post because people aren't going to remember, or like making it into something else because again, like just repurposing that content, like there's nothing wrong with that.
I think that's a great idea about making it into something else. I actually have never thought to do that, to take a post that did well and then create a video instead. Like that is genius. I'm going to start doing that. Thank you.
Probably was not my original idea. I'm sure I saw it on somebody else's TikTok or something.
No, but that's great. Well, that's what I love about entrepreneurs is that we share what works. We share what's helping us. We want to help other people get to where we are or do what we do because we've seen people before us do it and they inspired us to do it. So I love that you were sharing that. And I want to know, like, because you are still at your 9 to 5, but you are building your online business at the same time. Do you have like a goal of when you're going to leave that 9 to 5 to do the business full time? Like, what is that process looking like right now?
Yeah. So I guess, so my original goal is by the end of this year, I wanted to, so by end of 2021, other like just entrepreneur challenges is I'm engaged right now. And so if I quit my job, I don't have insurance. So, things to consider until we get married next summer. So that's been kind of like a barrier. And then I'm sure as you experience too, when you quit your job, it's like, it really is like a safety blanket, right? It's like, oh, well, if I don't do well, or if I don't succeed, like I still have this income. And so I think that that's honestly something that I've been struggling with a little bit lately, is using that as a little bit of a crutch. Like, oh, well, if I don't get a new client, it's fine because I still get my paycheck. And so I think ideally, I still would love it to be a goal by the end of this year. But at the same time, I am trying to give myself a little bit of grace because I think that's something that I have struggled with even these past couple months, is like trying to force myself to grow when in reality, like you said, there's going to be days that doesn't work or it doesn't happen. Like you're not feeling inspired, you have a busy week, it's stressful, like there's just things going on in life that are not your business, right? And so sometimes that slows you down. And so giving myself, instead of saying like I have to be by the end of this, I have felt a little bit better taking the pressure off and just saying, let this grow organically, like be okay with the hurdles and things like that, and then it will happen on its own. So I think that's still kind of an overarching goal, I would say, by the end of this year, maybe by the time I get married next summer. But I'm just trying not to force it, because I know that that can sometimes drive the success away, as if you're trying too hard. So
well, I think you're being smart about it too. You're weighing all the things going on in your life, and yeah, insurance is important, and you're planning a wedding, and that's like a lot too. And so I think you still have a plan, you still have a goal. And even if the plan or goal changes, the deadline changes, it's still going to happen. Like, you're still going to make it happen. And if it happens next year instead of the end of this year, that's totally okay, because you're still growing and you're still learning. And yeah, not forcing it is so important, because once we let go, that's when things start flowing and start like happening without without like, or if you lower, it's not even about lowering your expectations, but instead, like you said, giving yourself grace and giving yourself time. It's not like you're throwing in the towel and giving up on the dream. You're still growing it. It's just maybe be a little slower than you originally planned. But again, you're planning a wedding. You have all these other things going on, and that's okay. So I think that's something that people really need to hear. I'm glad you shared that. And I know you're still going to make it happen. And even if it happens 6 months later than originally planned, you're not a failure and you didn't do anything wrong, you know?
Yeah. And honestly, just giving myself that leeway, I think, has really helped like my creativity and stuff, because like I said, like if I'm putting so much pressure on it, like I have to get a client or I have to do this or that, and it's like that, just having that stress is like not helping me in any way. So if I can just like release it and take the pressure off, I think it's just like, I mean, it's helped my mental health a lot. It's just helped everything, like be more creative. And I've just felt a lot better since this past month, I would say I kind of really took that pressure off and started focusing more on just enjoying life in the process of entrepreneurship too.
Good. Yeah. Because you also are starting at a younger point in life too. So that's good. I mean, you have the rest of your life to figure this out. And yeah, I mean, I honestly think I might've jumped a little too soon when I did. Because I feel like I just was like, I'm going to do it or I'm going to change my mind. And I, looking back, hindsight's 2020 or whatever, but I think you'll be fine. I think you have a plan in place, and it'll all work out. And I think, when we take the pressure off too, it becomes more fun. Like you said, you become more creative and things start happening easier for you. Eventually you'll get those clients without even, not necessarily trying, but again, when we try to force things, then we get frustrated and things don't happen. So that's a good life lesson for anything. It doesn't even have to be about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to hear, what advice would you give to someone who wants to become a dietitian or wants to get into the field that you're in? Whether it be, in like a 9-to-5 job or as their own business, it doesn't matter. If you have any advice for people who want to do what you do.
Ooh, so actually on my TikTok, I feel like I get questions about this all the time. Like people that are like, oh, I want to be a dietitian. Like, what do I need to do? And I guess my biggest thing would be, a lot of people, when they go into the field of dietetics and nutrition, like they think it's going to be what I'm doing now as an entrepreneur. Like they think it's going to be one-on-one coaching and people coming to them for help and like that type of thing. But the reality is, a lot of dietitian jobs currently are in hospitals and doing like clinic work. So and unfortunately, a lot of that is just older populations, like people who are working, or like people who were just diagnosed with diabetes or hypertension and they need to change their diet and things like that. And so I guess that would, not a warning, but just having people be aware when they think they're going into dietetics. I think a lot of people think they're going more into like a health coaching type setting, and when in reality most of it is like hospitals and things like that. So if you want, there's nothing wrong if you want to do that, but just kind of be aware, because again, I think a lot of people have a false expectation when they enter the field that it's going to be like helping people and like, giving them wellness tips, and like that's just not always what it is. But I guess also I think it is important to note that there also are a lot of different opportunities for dietitians, especially I think as the field is growing. So I know a lot of other dietitians that are doing something similar to what I'm doing with like the online coaching, or they have like brick and mortar and they actually have an office where they do individual coaching. But there's also like supermarkets hire dietitians, and big brands like Kellogg's and Gordon Food Service and things like that. Like they have dietitians on staff that are helping them create recipes and make sure nutrition labels are in order and things like that. So restaurants like HelloFresh, like all these people have dietitians that are more like, I would say more like food creation or like menu planning as opposed to coaching. So I will say there are a lot of different types of jobs that you can do. But just having people be aware that not all of them are the traditional, what people think it's going to be.
Wow, that's really cool. I had no idea about like the restaurants and the grocery stores, and that's really interesting. And I think it's really good that you are sharing too, like the reality of a lot of the field and when you start out, because people do need to know that. I think whenever people find anybody on social media, whatever business they are, wherever they're at, they don't see the beginning. And so they do think that it's like, this is what I'll be doing right away. And I think every single person, no matter what field they started in, you don't start off doing your dream job. You don't start off doing what you love. You have to kind of start at those like entry-level jobs or jobs that aren't as fulfilling or fun. And I mean, but you still grow from them. You still learn from them. And it is cool that there are so many options in the field now. And that it's growing, because I think it's something that we need more of in the world and in our country, in the US, you know, with the obesity epidemic and all that stuff. So I love that the profession is growing. And I think that's really cool that you shared like the little bit of insight in there, because you just never know until you talk to someone. And I think this is a good point too, that if you are someone that's listening that wants to change your career, or you're younger and you are in college or trying to figure out what your career should be or what you want to do, is finding people who are like Taylor, who are doing something that you maybe want to do one day, and asking them, where did you start? How did you get to where you're going? Getting that insight beforehand, so that you can really decide, is this what I really want to do? Is this the kind of lifestyle I want? Or you find out later on. It's better than finding out later on that, oh, this was not what I wanted to pursue. And
right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know, with nutrition too, I guess is something I'll mention, is that a lot of people think that they have to be a dietitian in order to give, and I feel like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but to give nutrition advice. And technically you only need to be a dietitian if you are doing medical nutrition therapy, which is somebody who has a specific condition, who has gastrointestinal, like, you know, IBS or diabetes or hypertension. Like if somebody has a specific diagnosis, yes, I would not want you to work with them if you don't have a dietitian. But there are like a lot of fitness coaches and, you know, like other wellness professionals. And there's a lot of really good, like there's someone in I'm in a business coaching program, and she's a nurse, and she worked with a nutrition coach, and now she like really just loves that path and wants to do that. And so she has taken it upon herself to like educate herself with nutrition and things like that. And of course she has that medical knowledge because she is a nurse. But
right.
I guess I would say, like, if that's something that you want to do, like there are other paths too. Like there's, you know, you could become a health coach with an emphasis in nutrition, and like finding different ways, and then just being very careful about the populations that you choose to work with.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I'm definitely not a nutrition expert. I like to learn more about nutrition and then share those resources with people, or just share my grocery haul. That's not saying you need to eat the way I eat, but just here's some really yummy items, or here's how I meal prepped this food, or here's where I found this recipe. So that's obviously not like a career focus, but it is a way to help people with their nutrition without being a nutrition expert. But then also, like you said, like there are, if you do want to focus on that, there are career paths available where you can learn more and gain more knowledge. And so that's definitely a good point too. I know that earlier you mentioned your fiance and how he's kind of in the same field as you, which I think is great, because you probably understand each other a lot as far as like your career goals and what you're going through. And I actually saw one of your posts the other day about how supportive he is of you filming your TikToks and all that. And I just love seeing that, because it's so important for women to have a supportive significant other. I feel very fortunate in that my husband has always supported me and social media and my business and all these things. And I know that's not always the case for people, but I would love for you to kind of just talk about like how his support is helping you with you going after this goal of having your own business and whatnot.
Yeah, I really think it's so important. And like one of the things that he tells me every day, like if I'm stressed about something, he's like, you can quit your job whenever. And so like knowing that he is backing me up, like, sure, that might, like there might be some financial struggle for a while or, like whatever that looks like. But just knowing that he does support me in whatever it is that I choose to do. And like he's like you said, since he is a dietitian, it's also helpful that we can like bounce ideas off each other. I can be like, oh, like what do you think of this? Or like even if I have a question about a client, because again, he works specifically with sports and athletes. And so if I have someone that's super active or, is trying to compete in a triathlon or something, like he might have some more knowledge than I do. But yeah, overall, I think it can be difficult because I think people who aren't into entrepreneur and have that dream, like they don't exactly get it because of course we have all these big ideas and like non-traditional things that we want to do. And they're like, why don't you just want to get a paycheck, at a job? And so I think sometimes it is hard for him to 100% understand like what I want to do, but no matter what, he's still there and supporting me. And like I said, he'll read my captions and like give me tips and things like that, which I just really appreciate. And I definitely don't like, and he also talks me off a ledge, but if we're like, like there's days that are stressful and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I shouldn't even be doing this, da, da, da. And he's like, you literally, and then he'll like, reiterate all the things that I've done so far. And so just having somebody that has that like outside perspective, can be really helpful because it's easy to get down on yourself.
Oh yeah, that is exactly how me and my husband are, like, especially me, because I'm always like, oh my gosh, this isn't working out or this or that, or refreshing to see whatever, if people are liking the posts or whatever that, and yeah, they really do help us kind of, reinforce that we're on the right path, we're doing good, reminding us of the things that we've already accomplished, the people we've already helped that we tend to forget when we're looking ahead. So I'm so happy to hear that he's like that for you, because that's so important, and it makes the process better. It makes the process easier too, because you're not having that resistance. Instead you're having that support, which is important, because it is like a roller coaster, and it's going to be, not to scare you, because it's fine, you'll be fine, but it is a roller coaster too once you actually dive in fully to entrepreneurship. It's up and down, but it's completely worth it. And having that support system is going to help you so much with when those times come, those valleys and whatnot. I would love to hear, what do you have, like daily rituals or practices? I know you kind of mentioned with your pillars that you teach your clients, meditation and taking self-care and all that. So do you have anything that you're currently doing that's kind of helping you, whether it be personal development or meditation? Is there anything that you can share with us?
Yeah. So I think for me, like like I said, I'm part of another business coaching program. And one of the things that we always talk about is as a coach, like you need to fill your own cup first, because part of my job is giving out energy in every way possible. Like, whether it's content or helping a client through something, like constantly just giving and giving and giving, which I love. Like I'm a servant. Like that's what, like why I went into this profession. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like it's hard. And if you don't ever take time to fill your own cup, like then this is not sustainable. So that's something that I feel like I really have tried to work on more, like especially over this past couple of months. But for me personally, I always try to wake up and do some journaling or affirmations, even if it's like 5 minutes, or writing down 1 or 2 sentences, something that I can look forward to, some type of intention, something I'm grateful for. Like I'm not writing a whole diary every single day, but it's just something, kind of thoughts and things like that. So that's something. And then I always try to get my workout in the morning. Like for me, that is something that energizes me. I know it makes me feel good. I really enjoy my workouts. It's time for myself. But I also know if I don't do them in the morning, by the time it's 5 o'clock and I've had client calls and worked all day, like it's not going to happen later. So I know for me, like it is so important to get that out of the way early in the morning. And then for me, I love listening to podcasts, whether it's like, I personally love true crime, so I listen to a lot of true crime, but then also other like educational ones, and just learning like more about nutrition. And there's one podcast, Mind Over Macros, that I really enjoy listening to as like a more educational nutrition one. So whether it be learning or just doing more leisure things. And then of course, making sure I spend time. Like I said, before this month, I think something that I was really struggling with was I was like so focused on business. Like I got engaged in January and I felt like I hadn't even taken the time to like enjoy that time and like engagement. And so that was just something I was realizing. And so this past month, I like really took time to like do some of the wedding stuff and like have things for Sean and I to do. And like I said, just kind of slowing down and enjoying, like knowing that life is happening too. Like I can't put my life on hold because of this business. Like I need to be able to do both in order for it to be sustainable.
Yes. This phase in your life only happens once. So making sure that you enjoy it. And do you know what your Enneagram is by the chance?
I don't. I've never taken the thing, which is, I know, shocking, but I don't know.
I was just wondering, I was just curious because I was wondering if we were the same Enneagram or not. Because I'm a 3 and that's the achiever. And it's like, you want to do all these things and you want to serve all these people. And but I think it's good that you're very self-aware because you realize like what was happening. You're like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna spend more time with my fiance and slow down a little bit. And you're still making an impact. You're still growing your business. But yeah, when you said working out in the morning, that's key for me too. I remember I used to work out at night. I don't even know why or how I did that, but I literally, before every podcast episode, I work out because I'm like, I just need to feel sharp and like focused and take care of me first. Like you said, filling up your cup first. A lot of people say that about moms, but you don't have to be a mom. Whatever you're doing, if you are serving other people, if you are creating, you have to fill yourself up first and make sure that you're taken care of first, no matter who you are, no matter what your life situation is. So that's very important. And the affirmations, the journaling, podcasting, listening to podcasts, that's all important too. And I'll have to check out that you said Mind Over Macros.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. He's a coach. He's like a nutrition coach, but I don't think he's a dietitian, but he has a very good mix of like macro and like actually nutrition stuff and mindset stuff, because he, again, somebody that has their own personal story. I can't remember exactly what his is, but struggles with that and like always felt like restriction was the way to do it and it wasn't. And so he has a very good balance of like intuitive eating and that relationship with food with the actual food component, which I feel like is right in line with what I do too. So yeah, I think you would enjoy it a lot.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I know you really started your fitness and wellness journey in college, which is awesome because a lot of people, including myself, did not. College was very unhealthy for me, but luckily I found my way afterwards. So what advice would you give the 21-year-old you? I've been asking this to all of our guests because I feel like there's so much. Life is so different when you're 21, but if you could go back, even though you were on like a wellness journey starting out and you kind of knew you wanted to be a dietitian, what advice would you give her if you could go back in time?
Oh gosh. I think I would say chill the heck out. I feel like, because like you said, like I'm like you, I'm an achiever. Like when I start something, I go like full force and like I have to do all this and I have to have the perfect website and the perfect da-da-da. And it's just like, just chill. Like you're fine. Like you're gonna, like you said, you have 40 years to create a career for yourself. Like you don't need to like do all of this at once. And I think that would probably be it, is like kind of what I'm experiencing now. Like take time to actually stop and enjoy what's going on in life. You don't always have to be looking for that next thing. Like really enjoy what's going on now, because you're not going to get this time back. So even if that means you're not progressing in your business or your schooling or, you know, that area of your life, like take time to be grateful for the other things that are happening. And so I think that would probably be the advice I would need.
That's really good. I think that's advice for any age. Really. Yeah. Is to just chill out and be present and just take time to reflect. And I think that's great. Well, this was amazing. I feel like you had so much to share with us and different insights into the dietetic world, the nutrition world, the entrepreneurship world. And I would love for our listeners to know, how can they connect with you, not only on social media, but also how can they work with you one-on-one if they're looking for your support?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way is through social media. So like I said, on TikTok, I am the Minute Dietitian. And then you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, tay.vandyk, VANDYK. So those are the best places. And then in both of those places, you can find my link to like my little link tree thing. And in there, I have an application to work with me. And it's just a few questions. I always like to learn about people's goals and like kind of what they're looking for, what their experience has been in the past, just to make sure that we're a good fit to work together. I always tell people I'm not always looking for the most clients in my practice. I'm looking for people I know I can make an impact on and help. And if you're coming to me thinking that I'm just going to hand you a list of foods that you should eat, like that's not what I do. And so that's why I have the application process, is I really think it is important that we're a good fit to work together. So that would be the best way, is to go through social media and then fill out the application.
Okay, great. I will put those links in the show notes so that they can easily access them, because I know spelling things and trying to figure out. So those links will be there. And are you always taking on new clients? Do you have like an enrolling period, or is that just like open right now?
Yeah, so generally I am usually taking new clients every month. Like this past month, I actually had several that started back in like January, February. And so they were done. And so now I actually do have several open spots, because I had quite a few people like graduate is what I call it. And so it really just depends on the time of year. Like generally, of course, at the beginning of the year when people are all into health and wellness and things, like I do get, fill up a little bit faster. And then summer is a little bit of a slower time. But yeah, generally I am taking new people. It just kind of depends on the time of year.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being on today and for all the information, insight, and inspiration that you shared.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.